Okay, so we wanted to talk Henry versus Salah. That's what we want to talk about here right now. I've been involved in a couple of, debates, conversations around the greatest Premier League ever conversation. Now, I know Sky the other day, Jamie Carragher was talking about Henry being the greatest ever player. I think it's probably been voted that way as well, probably by, viewers possibly. But I wanted to talk about what makes a player the greatest player ever in a particular league, in a particular competition, whether it's the greatest World Cup player ever, whatnot. But I just want to give some figures first as to why this conversation has come up. So there's been a comparison around Henry versus Salah's figures. Now, in 377 games, so this is comparable in games played, 377 games played by Thierry Henry, he scored a total of 228 goals and got 93 assists. In 4 games fewer, Mohamed Salah has had 1 more goal and 10 more assists. And obviously he's still going. What is it, game 375, let's say now. He's got another couple of goals that he's had on top of that, and a couple more assists as well. Just a couple of other numbers I want to throw at you as well, just to show kind of like the records that Salah's breaking right now. There was a stat that came up yesterday about the fact that no other player had ever registered a goal and an assist in the same match more than 7 times until Liverpool's game, I think it was yesterday, against West Ham. Salah has now done it 8 times, so he's the only person that's registered a goal and an assist in 8 games in one season. And it's not even the new year yet. We're not even, just halfway through. We've just touched halfway through. So that could also, go up considerably. A couple of other things. In his 8 seasons, this is the 8th consecutive season that he scored 20 plus goals, as you mentioned on the way in when we were talking on the phone. 20 goals minimum for 8 seasons running. So when we're talking about consistency, just a madness. He's also become the quickest player to reach 30 Premier League goal contributions in a single campaign, beating the previous successor, who was Luis Suarez of Liverpool, who took 19 matches. The records just keep tumbling when you talk about Mohamed Salah. So when we talk numbers, it's comparable to Thierry Henry. However, when I've kind of put the debate out there to say it's got to be a conversation at least now, I was shut down by a lot of Arsenal fans. And non-Arsenal fans, I give it that as well, a few Man United fans there as well. And listen, let's not beat around the bush. I loved watching Thierry Henry play. For me, there'll never be a player like him. Yeah? Amazing player, amazing ability, amazing goals, just amazing moments in football matches that he produced. But when someone is putting up those kind of numbers, you can't say there's not a conversation to be had.
Where do you start? When you're talking about those elite, world-class, out-of-this-world-class numbers, there has to be a conversation. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, that conversation has to take place.
Yeah.
We spoke earlier and we spoke about the stats or the eye test.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the eye test, Thierry Henry has to be one of the most elegant, skillful footballers ever to grace a football pitch. And I'm talking about going back through the decades and looking at all players that have played over a period of time.
When he stepped away from a player, he looked like he did it effortlessly.
Yeah.
It looked like he was strolling, but he'd be pulling away from the player behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But the quick sprinters don't look like they're quick sprinting. It's only when you see them in comparison to the ones that are trying to chase them where you see how quick they actually are.
Salah looks quick when he runs. He looks hectic.
Yeah.
Very kind of, you can see he's putting it, he's bursting a gut to get there. Whereas
Thierry Henry was just great.
He just glided.
Nicolas Anelka was another player.
Another one similar.
He didn't have that kind of frantic running style.
No, but when he
put on the afterburners, he was moving. And I remember those moments. I think what Henry did, is he gave us world-class moments.
World-class moments, without a doubt.
Like the one when he put Danny Mills, went to hack him down and he nutmegged him.
Yeah.
And you just got Danny Mills facing all the Arsenal fans in the corner.
Yeah.
And Thierry Henry's gone. Was it Barcelona or Real Madrid in one of the Champions League games?
Real Madrid, I think, where again he went through a few players and scored.
Like,
the flick goal from the Man United, was it a free kick? I can't remember.
Kind of
from the back.
Yeah,
flicked it up in the air, then spun and hit it past Bartes in the goal.
There's one where the ball comes in and he kind of flicks it round the corner, around the player that's over, like
in his back.
Yeah,
and then he backheels it through his legs. Yeah, into the far corner.
So you've got all these moments. So exactly. when you're talking about Thierry Henry and you're talking about he's one of the best players.
Yeah,
I get it,
but that's not even in debate. Him being one of the best players, right? We know that.
But you cannot get away from Salah's consistency. And the figures that he's posting.
And let's also be honest with Salah. Salah, it's not that, we talk about great goal scorers and scores great goals. He's a great goal scorer, but he's also scored great goals.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at what he... And there's also comments being made previously that I've heard where the defenders Henry was playing against were stronger than the defenders that Mo Salah has had to play against. Which I think what happened is we put players who are retired sometimes on a bit of a pedestal because we have affection towards them and so on and so forth. I get that. The game has moved on. The game's a lot quicker now. The game's a lot more technical. I don't see what Salah did against Manchester City when he got the ball and he went past 3 or 4 players from the right and then cut in on his right and fired it across Edison.
Yeah.
I don't see that as lesser of a goal than Henry's against Liverpool when he was up against Jamie Carragher. And, I think it was Sami Hyypiä at the time. Sami Hyypiä was great, but he couldn't get near him. It was Jamie Carragher that was made to look a fool.
Yeah.
I think it was Igor Bishkan in the middle of the field as well.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if that swings and roundabouts, we can't start saying players in a certain era were better than players in this era.
For me, you only can look at the players that are on the pitch together, innit?
Correct.
And does Mo Salah do it against the big teams?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does. Does he do it in important games? Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Does he do it in when the pressure's on him?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Did
Thierry do it then? Yes, he did. You know what I mean? So for me, it's a conversation. So, if you talk about stylistically, I am a Henry fan.
Yeah,
but I cannot get away from Salah. Salah's at the moment.
I would say stylistically as well. Would I prefer to watch Mo Salah or on replay? I prefer to watch on replay, but I gave you an example earlier on. I prefer to watch, Loire play, or Geordie King-Clancy over a Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne is a great player.
Yeah.
Does he get me off the edge of my seat? No. He'll put in a wicked cross where I'm like, where did he even see that angle
or
from?
The pass or the
weight
weight of the pass.
Where did he see that angle from? And sometimes a shot where, again, you think, how did he even get that shot off? But he doesn't get me off the edge of my seat. He's quite a functional player. But he does what he does to a world-class standard.
Yeah.
But when you watch Loire now, when he used to get on the ball and he starts running at players, for me, that's excitement.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy that just left Newcastle and he's over in Turkey now?
Saint-Maximin.
Thank you. Saint-Maximin. Love watching him play. Whenever he played, I thought, and especially against the bigger teams, because he was the one that seemed to be able to take it to the bigger teams because of his individuality.
Yeah.
But we can't put them alongside a Rooney, who, again, wasn't the most, a flair player, but his numbers cannot be argued with. We talked about Ronaldo in his first season at Manchester United, how he had all of the flair, no end product. And, Ferguson was very keen to get him to cut out the
extravagance,
exactly, the performance. Let's just deal with end product. That's what's going to make you a great player. So when you talk about that, and when we talk about the greatest Premier League player ever, we can either go off stylistic, the eye test, but the problem with the eye test is always going to be subjective.
But what did you do?
Huh?
I think for me, the objective is going to be, great to look at, but what did you do?
But then I also agree then, though, that once you get past a certain numbers, I mean, Henry's numbers are ridiculous as well.
Yeah.
That we've just looked at, they're ridiculous. So once you get past certain numbers, it's almost like, they both scored over X amount of hundreds of goals, so they both still did big things.
Yeah.
But then what's the definitive? Because the eye test is subjective. Yeah. Some people might prefer the Henry style. Some people might prefer the more frantic-looking style of Mo Salah. Yeah. Some people might. So what is the definitive that can define you as the greatest ever? If you are a defender, it's more difficult to kind of determine, right? Because clean sheets is down to
team effort.
Right?
I think that the term greatest ever, is so it means different things to different people. So I recall us having this conversation about world class and getting into all these debates about what quantifies a world class player.
Good point. Yeah.
Now, I might look at someone and say, I believe that they're world class. Mm-hmm. And then you may look at them and think, I don't. I think this other player is world class. Yeah. But there's not one thing that's going to make me right and you wrong, or you right and me wrong. So I don't think you'll ever get to the root cause of it to be able to say, actually, when you use all these metrics, this player is that.
And the thing is, what you could say, if you're using a more specific term, like who is the greatest goal scorer ever, then greatest goal scorer is going to be the person who scored the most goals in a goals to game ratio.
Yeah.
No point in saying, oh, well, Shearer, because he's played 400 odd games, and, comparing that to an Henry who scored, played 150 games, if that was the case.
Yeah, but Henry only played 150 games here, then moved on.
No, but that's my point. Yeah. If we're talking Premier League, then you've got to look more towards goals per game ratio, right?
In the Premier League.
In the Premier League, if you're just looking at Premier League performances, right? So for me, and obviously I've got a horse in this race, being a Liverpool fan.
I know that.
But I'm a football fan first before I'm a Liverpool fan.
Oh.
Right?
So I thought it was the other way around.
No, you're right. I'm a Liverpool fan. Yeah. If Liverpool didn't exist, I wouldn't be interested in football. You're not wrong. You're not
like playing pretend for. I know on the radio, but we should take a pledge before we come in. That's not right.
I should tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. No, but ultimately, where I'm coming from with that is, I can appreciate everything that Henry bought.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I fully understand why people say he was the greatest Premier League player ever. But his greatness was defined by his output, not by the fact that he was a silky player.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that he was a silky player was a huge bonus and put him above, others who probably had similar numbers. Yeah. But then when we're coming down to be as definitive as possible to say greatest Premier League player ever, I'd say striker ever, because they were great midfielders, in world football. Look at Ronaldinho. None of them touch Ronaldinho as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? None of them touch Zidane as far as I'm concerned. But their numbers won't stack up to what they are. So we've got to talk about greatest Premier League forward ever, maybe.